Good afternoon, everyone, and happy summer to you. The June 25th, 2013 meeting of the Recreation and Education Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Barker. Here. Mrs. Draw. Here. Mr. Gamble. Here. Mr. Morelli. Here. Chairwoman Valerio.
Here. Okay. Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There are no public forum speakers signed up this evening.
Is there anyone present who is not signed up to speak would like to address the committee? So is this, at this time, do we have the presentation
yes.
now? Okay. All right. In that case, we would like to introduce Mrs. Patty Utaro, who is the director of the library, who would like to give us a presentation. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
As
Mrs. Valerio announced, I'm Patty Utaro. I'm director of the Monroe County Library System in the Rochester Public Library. Some of you I know, some of you we have not met in the past, but I would like to change that. I'd just like to give you a little bit of information on the state of the library system and the central library, which are the two things that most concern the county legislature. Performance-wise, the Monroe County Library System is, as always, very busy and well used by the residents of Monroe County. In 2012, there were 8.9 million items borrowed from all of the libraries in Monroe County, down very slightly from 9 million in 2011. We currently have 457,351 library card holders in Monroe County, and we do keep that database fairly updated. We purge it every 2 years of cards that have not been used in 2 years. So we keep it at between 450 and 500,000 at any given time, which is roughly 65 to 70% of the residents of Monroe County who own and use library cards. The total number of items that are available for borrowing in Monroe County libraries currently stands at 2.9 million. The total number of items that are shipped among our libraries for the last several years has remained steady at about 4 million items per year. That's one of the unique features of the Monroe County Library System, where you can request a material from any library in the county and have it shipped to the library that is closest or most convenient for you. Total number of visits to libraries in 2012 came in at 4.8 million. Up from 4 million in 2011. So that can tell you that the usage of libraries and visits to libraries continues to increase. Program attendance, we had a very large increase in 2012 from 250,000 in 2011 to more than 370,000 program attendees in 2012. Total local appropriations, and this is appropriations from Monroe County, City of Rochester, and all of our municipal governments, totaled 31.7 million, up slightly from 31.6 million in 2011. Total operating income for the libraries stood at 33.9 million, and total operating expenses at 33.7 million and 3.9 million in capital expenses. We do have 3 building projects, library building projects happening in the county right now. The Hamlin Library is going forward with a new building project on their town hall campus. The East Rochester Library is also embarked on a new building process with their town government, moving into the Air building, which is being renovated for the library and other town offices. And the Irondequoit Library had a referendum in April, which was passed by a fairly large majority to move forward with a new building project there also on the town hall campus. One of the things that I'm often asked about by funders and legislators and by library users is what do I see as a role for libraries as more and more people start to use e-books versus traditional print materials. And I do have a handout that Mrs. Rozzi will give to you after the session today that gives you an idea or a comparison of how circulation of traditional materials is comparing to circulation of e-books in Monroe County. Monroe County Library System was one of the first systems in New York State to start to purchase and make available e-books in 2006. Our collection started out pretty small, and the usage was fairly small as we saw very small pockets of users develop in different parts of the county. That has changed considerably over the last 2 years. Just to give you an idea, the circulation of ebook materials in 2008 was less than 5,000 for the entire year. In 2012, we were very close to 200,000 in circulation, and that's still a fairly small collection. We also have some issues with publishers and availability of e-resources, digital content. Many publishers, particularly the big 6 major publishers, will not sell ebook content to libraries. They're struggling with developing a new business model, and they see libraries and library borrowing as a threat to their profit margins. The American Library Association and several groups in New York State, particularly one led by the Queens Library downstate, has been actively working with publishers and with an initiative called Readers First to pressure these publishers to make availability of digital content within the reach of most libraries. You'll also get a briefing on ebooks from Mrs. Razi after the session, but on the back of that you'll see a pricing comparison that will give you an idea of what we've been facing in terms of trying to buy e-content and why we can't provide the same level of material in ebook as we do in print. I'll use as an example Justin Cronin's bestseller, The 12, which sold in print edition for $15.51. The ebook on Amazon, purchased by an individual, cost $9.99. For a library to buy that ebook was $84. Wow. So there are, as I said, American Library Association and Readers First initiative really pushing for government oversight and legislation that will control pricing and access to e-content. What's happening is we're just simply not able to provide the level of access that our customers have come to expect because the material is not being made available to us. On the central library side, which is also of interest to the legislature, I think most of you know that the county funds the operational support for the central library. Well, the city owns the building and provides the capital support. Usage at the central library has changed quite a bit in the last few years. We've seen circulation, reference questions, and internet use start to decline, while actual visits to the library have increased significantly. In 2012, for example, we recorded 649,250 visits, up from 595,000 in 2011. So we're seeing more people come into the library to use it for different purposes. We're seeing a lot of co-working happening, people who are attempting to start small businesses or who are working out of their homes but may not have the network or the infrastructure, the technology infrastructure that they need in order to conduct business, using the materials and the network resources in the libraries for that. We have a significant amount of space in the business division on the 4th floor of the Bausch & Lomb building that is currently used for that type of activity. So people are not necessarily borrowing from the library in the same way, but they're using the library in different ways. And we're seeing that happen, or taking a look at that in every library in the county, actually. The Brighton Library is currently looking for a space consultant to come in and work with them on how they use their space, how their space is changing, the requirements of the patrons that are changing. We're doing that in the city libraries as well. Some of you might have read or seen on the news something about a CGR study that the city recently commissioned to look at usage and demographic data for all of the city libraries, including the Central Library. And the RPL Board of Trustees will be working with the City Council over the next few months to start to plan a very different approach to delivering library services in the city based on some of the things that we learned in that survey. At the Central Library in 2010, I began sort of an overall reorganization effort where we looked at all sorts of things that were affecting the way we delivered service at Central. most importantly, how we use the space. When the new Central Library building was built in 1997, there were a significantly larger number of staff that worked in that building alone, not just in Rundle, but in that building. Today, we have between 55 and 60 fewer people in the Bausch and Lomb Public Library building. So that building was designed for much more staff than we have right now. We've just completed a space study, a master space plan that was delivered to the MCLS Board of Trustees and the RPL Board of Trustees in April, and we are embarking on the first phase of that plan, which will create a new media center on the first floor of that building, of the Bausch and Lomb building, essentially drawing our most exciting and unusual and newest materials into public view and into really one of the most visible places in the building. We'll also, at the end of the plan, which is a 4-phase plan, create a technology center which draws all of the internet access computers that are currently scattered throughout both buildings into one space that will be staffed with people who can help our customers with all of the different types of questions that they have. Part of the reason that we underwent this space study was to address some of the issues that the library has dealt with having flat funding for several years from the county and from the state. Actually, decreases in funding from the state since 2008 have really significantly impacted our ability to provide services and stay open. The number of hours we're required to stay open to meet state regulations. One of the strategies that we developed to deal with that funding decrease or the flat funding was to really aggressively pursue other revenue options, including finding space on the Central Library campus that can be rented. You'll consider some information about that tonight after I finish, but part of the space plan has identified a fairly significant amount of space in the new building that could potentially be made available as rental space, drawing additional revenue into the Central Library and reducing the burden on taxpayers. At this point, I would entertain questions.
Any questions?
Okay. Thank you very much.
I just have one little one. I was just thinking about in terms of e-books. Do you loan the readers too?
The Central Library does not, but several libraries in the county do. Greece loans e-readers. I believe Brighton and Fairport are also loaning e-readers.
Curious. Okay, thank you. Mr. Gamble.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Chilai as well.
Oh, good.
Yes.
I'd like to congratulate the library system overall because a lot of people have taken advantage of that, especially in my district.
Yes.
You've done wonderful things with the Lincoln Library.
Yes.
Down there as far as programs for youth and bilingual people as well. And the Central Library is a godsend in the summer because a lot of teen programs run through there.
Yes.
And I appreciate everything that you've done.
Thank you.
I echo that. You know, it's wonderful to read the advertisements for all the programs, especially for the children in the summer.
You all should have received
program.
our summer reading booklet.
The reading program, absolutely.
Okay. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we thank you.
Thank you.
We thank you for your service. Yeah.
I won't say no to that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Before we proceed with the agenda, we forgot to do the approval of the minutes. So that we have to go back one step. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the May 21st, 2013 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Okay? And also, I always like to be introduced, or have everyone introduced at the head table. So, starting at the left, please introduce yourself and tell us your position. Thank you.
Brett Granville, Department of Law, Terry Helfer from the County Executive Office.
Okay.
And Carolyn Franklin, Department of Finance.
Thank you very much. And who's behind Mr. Helfer? Thank you. I didn't hear your name? Bree? Okay, pretty name. Thank you so much. Okay, new business. The next item on the agenda is new business.
Referral 13-198, authorize.
Moved by Mrs. Draw, seconded by Mr. Barker. Any questions? Okay, please, Mr. Speaking in Spanish. Can you tell I've been doing great? Okay, Mr. Campbell.
Through the chair, I just have a question. What will the MCWA do with this property, and how are they involved in building 21 public safety building additional projects?
Through the chair, this is an easement to the Water Authority that covers a segment of their water system that's already in place out there at the campus. There's several thousand feet of water main presently installed. Because the new building requires a new service to hook into the water main at this location and the relocation of a hydrant, they've asked that we provide a minimum amount of easement to cover that area.
Through the chair, one hydrant? We're talking about one fire hydrant?
Through the chair, there's one hydrant that's being moved, and then there's an area where the new service line will hook into this water line.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? There being none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 13-200, authorize an interim.
Moved by Mr. Barker, seconded by Mrs. Draw. Any questions? Okay, Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Through you to the administration, when will the Department of Recreation and Youth Services begin the renovation project and move to the space in the library?
Through the chair, final relocation will be in August. Renovation is occurring now.
Thank you. And the funds to go about the renovation and the move, where are those funds coming from? Through you.
Through the chair, the funds for the renovation and the move are supplied fully by the City of Rochester.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Campbell.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair to the administration. Is this the department that's currently being housed at the Sibley's, if I'm not mistaken? Am I correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct.
So it's going to be youth services and the Department of Recreation?
Through the chair, Department of Recreation and Youth Services, youth employment, and the PRIME program, plus the youth services staff.
The PRIME program and youth services staff, excuse me, through the chair, PRIME program, youth services staff. How many personnel are we talking about?
Through the chair, it's fewer than 30. They do have a number of seasonal programs that involve seasonal staff.
Question through the chair. Thank you. This will not affect or hinder or enable any other programs that are currently existing from operating at the capacity that it's currently doing, will it?
Through the chair, for the library, no, and also no for DRYS.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? There being none, the June 25th, 2013 meeting of the Recreation and Education Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Recreation and Education Committee is scheduled for July 30th, 2013. Thank you. you, everyone.